this workshop, everyone, this webinar, I should say. All right, I'm the facilitator for this particular webinar. And it's going to be, this webinar is designed to be very hands-on to an extent, but a lot more on the to map out the process and the road, basically the path to building your remote courses. All right. I see we have some persons who are using Blackboard for the first time, and that's okay. All right. I know it's right after lunch hours, and anybody has anything to, what do you think of, for those of you who've been using this platform as of just now, what do you think thus far? Anybody? Right, hi Paulson, go ahead.
Yeah, I've enjoyed using Blackboard Collaborate. I don't have a preference between it and Zoom. I think for the courses I taught, I used it consistently.
Right.
I'm trying to think if there's any difference. If for any reason, sometimes I may want to switch in terms of, I know with Zoom it allows you to have control to students of things you might be doing interactively on your screen. I don't know if Blackboard Collaborate has that. If I'm sharing my screen and I want students to interact with these things. And so that's something I'm interested in learning. Especially for reading, as we're training students to teach reading, there are some things, a lot of this stuff is online now, like word study, where we want students to interact with the things on the screen as they make their selections. We will be able to do that in Blackboard Collaborate. So the teachers can experience what it is to teach reading remotely.
Right, very good, very good. I like that, and that perspective on it. I think having been exposed to both Blackboard and Zoom, it puts you in a position to weigh the pros and cons of each platform. Yeah. But keep in mind that there's also a mandate on the campus by the principal in particular that leans more to Blackboard Collaborate. All right. And we'll get into that as we go forward. So right off the bat, guys, I would just like to start with a bit of an icebreaker. And I'm going to do a little poll here. You should see it up here on your screen. And I want you to identify, in your opinion, what do you think is the most important element for remote teaching and learning? Hi, Pradeep. Go ahead.
Hi, Justin. For me, I think 4 are equally important. Blackboard, and of course, outline also important. myeLearning. Without myeLearning, you can't get access, and a course plan. So 4.
Right. You say all. Okay. Yeah. Good. Go ahead, Vida.
Good afternoon. I just would like to say that last semester I used Blackboard Collaborate, and I found it very effective. However, I was not linked to myeLearning, so I used Blackboard Collaborate on its own, right? Yeah. So I'm quite looking forward this semester to using it again. However, I am hoping that the link with myeLearning could be made, so that it would make the process a lot easier for myself and for students. And like the previous person said, I think all 4 points here would be very important when we talk about remote learning this semester and onward.
Yes, definitely. Oh, Paulson, go ahead. I like it. Keep it coming.
So, well, my thought was I thought we were supposed to respond to the survey. I didn't know you were supposed to comment.
Yes, we're supposed to respond to the survey.
To me, I selected the course plan because that gives you a kind of view of everything and how it integrates. Because remember, with remote teaching, there are some things you need to have that what is called asynchronous and synchronous instruction. I think that we're using it on demand, and I'm forgetting the other expression for concepts. But you have things that you may want students to take, like your podcasts and your recorded lectures, some of it, and you have those that you're doing live. And if you don't take a step back with your course plan and see how you're integrating all of those things, sometimes you get all confused and lost on myeLearning. So you have to, your course plan allows you to think through all of those things and make sure they're all seamlessly integrated, so that students have an excellent experience.
Right. Yes, you're very right. You're very right. I see someone has someone else. Go ahead. Hello? Go ahead. I think someone placed their hand up just now. Go ahead, Desiree.
Hi, afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to endorse what Paulson said, because I think when you're thinking about the Blackboard Collaborate and all those kinds of things, there are platforms, there are tools, yes, but that facilitate your teaching. So that for me, without the course plan, you can get bogged down in all the tools, etc., without really keeping in mind exactly what it is you are about. So that the tools might tend to drive the teaching rather than the other way around.
Right, right. Totally understand. And I think you might be on the right track. So if I were to modify the question, what would you think, anybody or everybody, what do you think would be the first step in building a remote course for teaching and learning? Would you say, amongst the 4 elements highlighted there, would you say it's a course plan, a course outline, myeLearning, Blackboard? And I see we have some results there. So far, I think someone is about to speak. Go ahead, Lana.
I don't know. I am touching. I just touched the audio because it had the slash across. I'm still trying to find my way around this.
All right, no problem. Well, let me just give everyone a quick walkthrough. So at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a couple icons there. Namely, you would see a microphone icon. So if you wish to speak, you could, and to be heard, you would need to click on the icon, the microphone icon.
It can stay with the slash across it until I'm ready to speak.
Yes, yes. Thanks for raising that as well. Once you are through contributing your piece, then you could click on the microphone and ensure that the slashes are crossing. That would ensure that your microphone is off. All right, and we won't be getting a lot of feedback and echoes and so on. The other thing, and I think someone just did it, raise your hand. If you would like to make a contribution, feel free to raise your hand and or chime in, and we could take it from there. Okay? You don't have to share your camera, your video aspect, and you had something to say. Go ahead. So Anne provided a nice little demonstration there to the raising of the hand. Go ahead, Anne.
I just wanted to indicate that the most important thing for me would be the course outline. The first thing would be the course outline, because in the course outline we would actually talk about the mode of delivery. So we could indicate if it is Blackboard, myeLearning, if it's the both, so we would have that in there. And then of course we would have the whole plan of the course as well, in a kind of a way, because we would have to itemize subjects, what we are teaching, each module, all of that would be in the course outline. So I think the first thing we should start with would be the course outline.
Definitely. I thank you so much for that, Anne. And I think, Anne, you could teach this workshop, this webinar, because you're very much right in terms of the process would start at least with a course outline. Yeah? And we'll get into that in just a bit, in just about less than 1 minute. And I think Sahu, I think, mentioned it, that really all of these elements are important. It's very hard to say which one is the most important and which one is not, because no one element could stand on its own. So for example, you wouldn't be able to deliver a course, a remote course, without a course outline, or a course plan, sorry, I should say. And you probably wouldn't be able to build a course plan if you don't have a course outline, as Anne rightfully said. Yeah? And of course, speaking within this particular context, the campus context, you wouldn't be able to deliver your remote course, even though you've built it and you've done, you've planned it and you did all these things. In terms of the delivery of it, you can't really deliver it efficiently without myeLearning and Blackboard Collaborate. I think someone just said, I think it was Vida, said, and let me know if I'm mispronouncing your name, please. She said that she tried external platforms, I think Blackboard externally, and it was good, but she recognized that it could be easier, of course, using the in-house or the internal platforms, which is good. All right. I see in the chat here we have someone who said is remote. Yes, you're very right, Radhika. The key word here is remote, so it should be Blackboard Collaborate. I like that analysis. I like that process of analysis. Very good. All right, so let me just share the responses with you. So the majority of persons, you should be able to see it. The majority of persons indicated a course plan as probably the most important element for remote teaching. And I think it's fair to say that all of the elements, I want to say it's almost like a trick question. All of the elements are very important. And I'm glad that so many of you selected a course plan, because very often, yes, definitely, Jeffrey. Very often a course plan is overlooked, and we're at a stage where we went from face-to-face, or let's say within the last year or so or less, we have gone from face-to-face / blended to emergency remote teaching and learning, and now we're into remote teaching and learning. So it's almost like stages, a progressive or incremental thing. Because of course at this stage it's no longer an emergency. Yeah, it's safe to say that. And when I say no longer an emergency, when we think of emergency remote teaching, it's almost like a crisis management approach you're taking, where you have to make very quick changes or adjustments to your course. But with remote teaching now, it becomes a little more systematic. Oh, I think is everyone hearing me clearly or no? Okay. Okay, great. Carla, I think it might be your connection. I'm not too sure. All right. Okay, great. So as we continue, right, Stephanie said course outline and then the course plan. Okay, great. Should be the first step because we are adapting to, there we go. You're on point, Stephanie, very much so. All right. So I'm glad that we already get the ball rolling, so to speak. And I know it's after lunch, so I know, but so I'm glad to see that we're so actively involved. So this is good. So we have some objectives to guide us for this session. We're going to look at remote teaching and learning and what it really is, what it comprises, particularly within this context that we're in, within the UWI, STA, or St. Augustine campus. And then we're going to look at the changes that may be necessary. Like I said, remember you went from face-to-face or blended to emergency remote, and then that emergency remote was basically, well, halfway through the semester, all right? And then now it's a remote delivery, all right? So there would be some changes and adjustments that you would have to make. But the good news is that you don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can, it's just a matter of making some additional adjustments, yeah? And of course, we're gonna look at some technology tools namely myeLearning and Blackboard and maybe Zoom, and see how these and a couple others, and see how these can be folded or used within your blended, or where it falls within your remote courses. All right. So as we move forward in terms of remote teaching and learning, just off the bat, well, we know that remote teaching implies that it's something that needs to be, that it's accessed distance or sometimes online. In the previous iteration of this session, someone said that you may not necessarily have to do it online. You could do it via the telephone, via different avenues. I don't know what do you guys think of that? Anybody? Fine, we got kind of quiet there, boy. Go ahead, Paulson.
Yeah, I like the idea of using multiple platforms to teach on multiple routes. Despite the interaction with students, I don't like something I've noticed. Lots of lecturers don't have their video on, and I know I have trouble connecting with people if I can't see them. I'm not sure the pattern. I've been in lots of webinars in coming, during the time we were on lockdown, and I've noticed the ones that I appreciated, but the ones where there was that level of interaction. I saw all the presenters, but I've noticed locally people seem to have their videos off and you can't see them. I know something my students appreciate, that whenever we have our remote teaching, I've always had my videos on. I ask my students to have their videos on. They're prepared for a class, so they can't say, I'm not ready, because this is a scheduled class. So you should have your environment prepared to the extent that you possibly can. And remote teaching is not just posting everything online and telling students, check these folders, that. So it's just a blend of all of those things that you have to manage. Course plan allows you to do that blend in a very sensible way, thinking of your students and not just you as a lecturer. We're not the important ones, our clients are.
Right, you're definitely right. You're definitely right. And would you like me to share my camera as well? Would that help as well? You could let me know in the chat. What's that?
No comment.
All right, but and as Shaman is saying as well, because that was going to be my response, sometimes it's difficult for students to share their video or camera because of connectivity issues. It could be a little more of a strain on the bandwidth and so on to include videos. I'm sure, and even here, we have an issue where some people are coming on or dropping off. I think Carla said she was hearing in and out. So all of these things need to be taken into consideration, even with that person. So definitely. All right. Now, when we think of remote teaching and learning, it usually is done through some sort of video conferencing software. So we could say this, in our context, we would think Blackboard Collaborate. And then it'll also incorporate an LMS, or a learning management system. And myeLearning is an example of a learning management system. In different institutions, they have different platforms and different brandings and so on. All right, but in our context, we use what we call myeLearning. The other thing about remote teaching and learning is that it may be synchronous or asynchronous. And I would recommend that it should be a combination of the two. All right. Synchronous meaning it should be live. You should have live or real-time elements, such as a session like what we're doing now. And asynchronous may be things where students can do independent work or activities that are not necessarily done all at the same time. Yeah. So an example of that might be a discussion forum where students can read and post at different times throughout the day or the week or whatnot. And like I said, you would want to find a healthy balance between the two. And when we get into your course plan, we're going to see how you can start to distinguish between the two, all right, and how you can combine them. And in this context in particular, remote teaching and learning is particularly a temporary adjustment. Like I said before, we had to make adjustments in what we did for emergency remote. That was a period of adjustment. And now we're doing remote. So that's another element of adjustment that needs to take place. Yeah, I see Janet said yes. I think she was referring to Shaman's comment. And Carla said, is it right? Yes, definitely. You guys are right. All right, so let's. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you again.
Yes.
Okay.
You went off for a bit.
Yeah, I think my machine is froze. Okay, so let's move right ahead. Some things you will need in your as you design or build your remote course. Good question, Jeffrey. Good question. The course plan that we're referring to, however, is something that is and yes, that is somewhat true. All right, because at the end of it, you have your course calendar and so forth, and you outline some of the assessments and the weeks you have these assessments. But as you'll see in just a bit, a very detailed a course plan is very detailed. All right, a lot more detailed than the course outline. And when I show you a template or a sample of it, it would kind of make sense. Yeah. So these are some of the elements that you will need along the way. Hello. Go ahead, Dick.
I'm hearing you.
Okay.
Hello. How often does this happen that you drop out?
Okay. I'm wondering if it's my machine or if it's a connection issue.
What I'm asking this for is I'm very afraid that when you have 40 people in your classroom, then it will drop out continuously.
I'm hearing a little bit of feedback from you, Dick.
We may also have bandwidth issues because academic advising is going on.
All right, let me just give me 1 sec. Let me see how I can adjust this. And Shaman, you might be right, so taking that into consideration, but let's see how quickly we could make an adjustment here, okay? All right, while that comes up, I'm just logging into another machine just to see if this is something that is here. So just give me 1 minute, please, if you don't mind. All right. So Daniela, no, I was just trying to troubleshoot something here. All right. Yes, definitely. So just give me a couple more seconds, and that should come up on the other end. In the meantime, I think we could continue, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. If so, I'll just have to move to another machine and make some adjustments here. All right, so let's see how we can continue. And I think Shaman may be quite right that with all that's going on campus, it's probably a bit of an overload. All right, so let's press on. So these are some of the elements that you will need along the way. Your course content, course activities, assessments, conferencing platform, and all of this is housed in the LMS. All right. Now, let me just say right here, at this point, you want to find a healthy balance of, there are three types of presence, all right, in any online or blended or remote course. These, of course, are what we call, well, for one, would be the social presence. And the social presence will be anything along the lines of that would facilitate interaction. I think they're beefing up the platform as well, Jeffrey. So yeah, definitely. All right, so yeah, I could get back to you on that just to verify. All right, so the social presence is what we call the interactive and collaborative elements of your course. So these might include the social presence, sorry, would encompass anything from online presentations, discussion forums, and these things that allow for engagement, interaction, and even collaboration amongst the students. So the students are not only they don't have a good rapport with each other, but they also have a good rapport with you, the facilitator of the course. Yeah. So you must have that social element. And let's, if we be real, I mean, we know it's quite easy to feel isolated or lost in an online or remote course, correct? Yeah. And so this is why the social presence, yeah, definitely. And this is why the social presence is so important. Students need to be able to connect with each other and to connect with you. The second aspect is the cognitive presence. You disagree, Terry? Go ahead. You could tell us why you disagree.
Well, I disagree. I find the online presence has enhanced the learning experience, and I would just draw example using well, a lot of young people now are on this application called TikTok, and a lot of persons were worried, prior to COVID, how would young people socialize and engage with each other? But then we have this application that came out, and a lot of young people still socialize, and actually was actually good for that social interaction as well as exercise. So I would disagree that it has defeated the purpose of social interaction, and it is not a good learning tool as compared to teaching pre-COVID.
Right.
So I believe that certain attributes that are very good for person, well, young persons. So this is my this is why I would disagree. Not everyone, because for me, and I know some other young persons, they are actually more comfortable in the online learning environment as compared to being in the classroom among
Right.
peers. So maybe some like the social interaction, and some others they actually prefer it. So that is why I would disagree. I wouldn't say it is for all, but
Right.
there are actually a lot of persons who like it, and I always use the phrase that the TikTok generation likes it.
The TikTok generation, yes. Anybody else? What do you think? Anybody on what on Terry's contribution? Go ahead, anybody. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Go ahead, Anne.
Yes, I agree with him in part and disagree with him in part, because we can lose. While I understand the generation that we're working with, and they are very accurate with online learning, and they may prefer it. We can lose as lecturers. We can lose that engagement if somebody is not strong. If you have a weak person, and that person can, because of the isolation, they can just go in within themselves and not be as productive as possible. If you have the face to face where you could see them, you could probably see them going into that place and help and pull them out. But in a case like that, with the lack of interaction, we don't know if they will really reach out to their peers and seek help. You know, so in that way, I agree, yet I disagree.
Okay, good. Anything else? Thanks so much for that, Anne. I think you guys have on to something there. I mean, there are some people who might be much more comfortable online as opposed to face, yeah, in terms of communicating and connecting and so on. But even as Terry made mention of the TikTok generation, this is why it's so necessary that you create or try to incorporate not necessarily the TikTok platform, but the social element into your course, right? And yes, definitely, Janet. But the research has been done too. It's ongoing and it's continuous. But there must be a social element to your course, and the research has shown that. And I think Terry is onto something in the sense that he is alluding to incorporating elements, let's say, of, it may not be TikTok specifically, but at least the principles that underlie the TikTok generation or the TikTok platform. One of the things with TikTok, for those of you who don't know, it's a fairly recent platform that is I want to call it a social media boom. All right. And yes, definitely, Stephanie, it's an opportunity to explore different learning styles. There are some people who might be comfortable with TikTok, and then there are those, as Anne mentioned, who may not be comfortable with that sort of interaction and in the online platform. So you want to be mindful of who you are teaching. Yeah. So either way, you still need to have a social element in your course. All right, so you must have a social element. Yes, Daniela, go ahead. Daniela?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think we're hearing you, Daniela. I think you may have a technical issue.
You can.
Yes, go ahead.
Hear me now? All right.
Yes.
So it's a good how you say, it's a good idea as well to implement a social media, right? So what I use now to do with my students is to work with them with WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a good tool as well to work with them, because sometimes accordingly there are people, WhatsApp is the one is reaching too faster in the cell phones. So when I send work or quizzes or things like that in a next platform, always I use WhatsApp aside. So I always send them and saying, here I send them material, go and go through, you have to do this, you have to do that, and everybody is using WhatsApp, and that working very good with me. I don't know, but with other teachers, but that is a good tool to keep in mind too.
Yes, and you're definitely right, Daniela. It's something even in my courses I use. I like to create a little WhatsApp group, so everyone is on the same page. Yeah. Jeffrey said I WhatsApp to the class rep, and right, exactly. So you keep that communication going on, and that functions even as a social presence element. Yeah, that as well functions as that, because you're able to connect with students, not just remotely, but in an informal type of way, and so and it's immediate. Exactly, it's immediate. So a student can always see. In addition, yes, they might get an email or whatnot, but you might want to send reminders or a little note, as Daniela said. Okay, I sent information on or reading material on a particular thing, and that works. So so that is a way of satisfying the social presence. Yeah. And I think I was saying that the cognitive presence is where you provide the information to students and the instructions that you give to students. All right. And I think that is self-explanatory. When you think of cognitive, you think of, brain processes and so on. And so it's really where the student begins to construct meaning, and the learning actually takes place. The student will internalize a certain experience or what is being presented to him or her, and really make sense of it all, right? So we just spoke about the social presence, which is that interaction aspect of it. Then we spoke of interactive action element. Then we spoke about the cognitive presence, which is that internal mind, and I would venture to say even neurological, brain-based aspect of it. And then, of course, we have the final one, which is the teacher presence. And the teacher presence is where you kind of help make the connections for students. You facilitate, yes, the social presence, but you also facilitate the cognitive presence. So when, let's say, for example, and just back up a little bit, so the cognitive presence would be where you provide the instructions, you give instructions to what you want students to do, you explain things, that's also part of it. You engage them in a discussion forum, for example. Yeah. So let's say a discussion forum is going going off topic. I'm just using a random example, right? Let's say you have your online discussion, so you have that social presence, but the conversation or the discussion is going off the topic. Or you have students stating just very generic responses like, I agree and I concur with your concurrence, right? I've seen that a couple of times. But then the onus is on you as a teacher and the teaching presence now, where you ask subsidiary questions, right? To get them to explain, to get them to justify, to get them to state reasons for their answers, that sort of thing. So the different types of presence all interact, or they're interrelated. The social presence, the cognitive presence, and the teaching presence. And I know I digress a little bit, but it's just something that you should note as we are talking about the elements here. And you really want to find balance or alignment as you make your adjustments. Right, Colicia, an LMS is, it's an acronym for Learning Management System. All right, and an example of a learning management system is myeLearning. All right, and a learning management system allows you to communicate with your students and co-teachers. It allows you to allow students to submit assignments or whatever assessments they might be, and for you to grade those assessments. And then it also facilitates administration of the course. So whether you want to put students in groups, whether you want to set different deadlines and so on, all of that can be easily done in a learning management system such as myeLearning. All right, so we really want to take the time to, no problem, right? Thanks so much for that as well, Paulson. So you really want to find the alignment between especially the teaching and learning activities and the feedback and assessment, because these are and I highlighted them in red or circled them in red because these are the things that you're going to be adjusting. Remember, you're not going to be started from scratch. So your learning objectives would remain the same, but the way you go about it or about them would require some adjustment. Yeah. If you look at it like your objective might be to get to the airport, right? And because of social, I'm trying to make an analogy, because of the social distancing, you may not be able to use a taxi to get to the airport. Yeah, and the taxi might be the technology tool, for example. All right, but you could adjust how you go about it. You might use a different means of transport altogether, or you might very well use a taxi, but just, you know, use the taxi for you alone. Yeah. So that was just an example. May not be the best example, but you get what I'm saying. So it's your objective doesn't change. Your learning goals will not change, but the way you accomplish them or the way you map them out would need adjustment. All right, that includes even your assessment. All right, where some of the assessments you might have maybe face-to-face exams. You can't do that anymore, right? Because remember, we're in a dispensation where it's remote teaching and learning. So that will require you to do online assessments, all right, or remote assessments. Go ahead, Desiree.
I'm wondering, it just is occurring to me, Justin, whether you're saying that the learning goals and objectives may not change, but if the context has now changed, that is no longer strict face-to-face, but remote, then there may be might there be additional goals and objectives that maybe might be more affective than anything else, than cognitive?
Right. I would say not to an extent. It shouldn't change fundamentally. Let me say it like that. And when I say that, I mean that because remember, if you change your learning objectives and so on, then you're going to have to go through the entire course review process. All right. So it's not a fundamental change, but it's something that you want to adjust. That's why I'm saying I'm cautiously using the word change. Okay. I'm saying more adjust. Okay. Right. So you make some adjustments here and there that would be in alignment with your learning goals and objectives. All right. So you're focusing mainly on the delivery and the assessments, and that takes us to the next slide. Taking that time to stop and reflect, take a look at your course and your course outline especially, and then seeing where you can make certain changes. All right. Right. I think, let me just check the chat. Stephanie said the syllabus does not change, but there you go. You hit the nail on the head, Stephanie. All right, because remember, it's more of a mode of delivery that we're looking at here, not so much the content of it. All right, you're changing the delivery, you're changing or adjusting the delivery, you're adjusting the instructions, you're adjusting the assessments, you're adjusting, and like I said, the delivery, because now it's remote. We can't do it face-to-face anymore. All right, so the thing is really that you want to take a look at what you already have. All right, remember, you don't have to start from scratch, right? It may be that you might just change a face-to-face session. Well, obviously you have to change a face-to-face session, and you would also have to change some of the activities that, let's say, what would have been face-to-face, now you have to change it to online. All right, yeah. And so this is, so with that said, you make the necessary adjustments, not fundamentally, but in terms of your delivery. Any questions so far? Go ahead, Paulson.
I have a question, but it's a comment that I found. I think we need to consider as we engage with our students. There's this notion of the digital natives versus digital immigrants. They tend to call us people the digital immigrants. And the young ones, digital natives. And there's this perception that because they're so tech savvy, that means they can multitask, they can do a number of things. I myself was under the illusion that as somebody who likes to multitask, that I was being very efficient. And I've noticed that during the times when we were now participating in a lot of these webinars and all kinds of trainings during the last few months, where we were placed on the side of the students, that this multitasking thing is more of a myth than a reality. And I found myself oftentimes not being efficient. If up to this morning I was in 2 Zoom things at the same time on 2 different computers, and I realized, there you go again. And we have to be aware that students might be doing the same thing, and they might end up not paying attention to a lot of details, especially when it comes to skill building and knowledge that is critical for them to become proficient in the outcomes of the course, the learning outcomes.
Right.
So that's when we have to help our students to understand that this multitasking thing is a myth, especially if you want to become proficient and fully benefit. So I think it's something to think about.
I think you raised a very good point there where, you know, you, I guess, alluded to the fact that, remember, students are not doing your course alone. All right, most of them are doing like 5 or 6 courses at the same time. So that in itself, you want to consider that as you review or adjust your course activities, you want to take that into consideration. It shouldn't be an activity that is so, that the student is so engrossed in trying to complete it that, you know, you want to make it practical. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So thanks so much for that as well, Paulson. So I'm just going to highlight a couple steps very quickly. And right off the bat, the first one we have is really, of course, your course outline. So you're using, remember I said in the previous slide, you don't have to start from scratch. All right, you're not going to reinvent the wheel. You're just going to improve the wheel, the way the wheel works. All right, and that's a little tongue twister, the way the wheel works. All right, so yes, you have your course outline. The next thing that you need to do is have a course plan, as we spoke a lot about in the icebreaker. You must have a course plan because the course plan helps you, for one, get balance, ensure that you have balance between, let's say, the technology tools, the objectives, and all these different things. It also helps you to schedule things. And remember, the student also needs to know when things are due, what things are expected of them, that sort of thing. So the course plan is something that you really want to ensure that you create before you even embark upon building your remote courses. All right. Now the course plan is not anything too demanding because remember you already have your course outline. All right. And the course outline and the course plan work together in building your remote course. Yeah. And I think somebody asked a question, you know, and in the previous session as well, there was a question in terms of many people thought that a lot of what is off the surface in terms of a lot of that the course plan is included in the course outline. And I think someone asked a question earlier on that, right? And some of it is, yes, which is why I'm saying you're not starting from scratch. But the difference between the course outline and the course plan is that the course plan is a lot more detailed. In the course plan, for example, you might identify not just the different modules, because you'll have that in your course outline, but also the duration of the modules, the elements that are synchronous versus asynchronous. Remember, we mentioned that earlier. So if it's a synchronous session for a particular week versus a series of asynchronous activities you might want to have instead of meeting synchronously. Yeah. The course plan would also help you identify the activities and even the instructions that you want to give to your students. All right, and I could easily put a sample for you of what a course plan looks like. Now, the course plan helps to identify what elements you have in your course. And I think I said earlier that you can share the course plan with your students, and it doesn't have to be the complete course plan, but at least an amended version. So let me share what a course plan looks like here. And this is just a sample. If it's a little too fine or small to read, you could just click on the magnifying glass on the left side of your screen, close to the top, and you click on the plus sign. All right, and that would magnify it a little more for you. So on the extreme, so like I said, this is just a sample. On the extreme left, you have the week. All right, and the week doesn't have to be a standard 1 week or week 1, week 2, week 3, but it can be weeks 1 to 4, 1 to 3, you know, as you see fit. And of course, the module or topic that you're going to be addressing in that time. All of this would be in your course outline. Yes, so it's not that you're going to put new information here. Likewise, for the third column on the left, the objectives, those remain the same, right? And remember, as I think Stephanie and I were saying, that it's just, you're just making adjustments to the delivery. So the first three columns could more or less remain the same as represented by your course outline. But when you get to the instructional activities, this is where it gets, you have to make note of the changes, all right, or record or document the changes that are being made. For one, like I said earlier, you're going to outline or identify if the synchronous and asynchronous elements of this particular module. So for example, are you going to have an online lecture in real time, or is it going to be a series of asynchronous activities that students have to complete during the course of the week? Or is it going to be a combination of the two, like I was suggesting earlier? All right. And then next to that, we have learner participation. In that column, we give a good way to deal with this is putting some of the instructions that you are going to give students. All right. So for example, if it's an online forum, as we see here, you give the instruction or the stem or the prompt of the forum. All right. What are the instructions that you're going to give to students? And this makes it easier. So when you go to the next step in creating it in myeLearning, all you have to do is copy and paste from here and into myeLearning. Yeah? Make sense? All right. Any questions so far, guys? Let me know. So far, so good? Okay, great. And so we just dealt with instructional activities and then the learner participation. The next column, sorry, is the instructional media. Now, this is where you're going to identify any different types or any type of technology tool that you would need to facilitate this module. Because remember, you just identified the activities you want to do and the instructions you're going to give to students. So let's say you're going to have a synchronous session. All right. Learner participation, students will of course engage in some sort of, let's say a group activity, or breakout rooms or whatnot during that live session. And the instructional media you might use would be Zoom or, well, sorry, Blackboard, for example. All right. So you want to make sure that you account for everything, so nothing catches you by surprise. You know, one of the things about teaching and learning is that you plan for everything so that very little can catch you by surprise. It might be unexpected, but it doesn't catch you off guard, yeah, so to speak. All right, so for example, when we did that emergency remote teaching, we know, okay, that was kind of, you know, we didn't see that coming, so to speak. And of course, now we're in a new stage of remote teaching and learning, so it's no longer emergency. So we plan accordingly. And so to go to the final column on the right side, we see here the assessment strategy. Now, let's say before you had a midterm exam, face-to-face exam, that cannot be done now. So you might want to rethink, okay, how can I adjust this assessment? Do I do an online quiz? Do I get them to do an online presentation? Do I get them to do, you know, different things that you could that would help you assess that module? Now, the assessment strategy doesn't have to be the full administrative assessment. It might just be the activity, the in-class activity that, or module activities that would function and let you know that the objective was accomplished. All right. And so what we have here is alignment. So if I were to describe, let's say what we have here, the module in week 1, the topic is the UWI's blended learning policy, or policy for blended learning. The objective, I want them to identify 3 components of the policy, right? The instructional activities, as we see here, would be, I want them to, we're gonna look at it in a synchronous lecture, let's say via Blackboard, all right? We're gonna have a face-to-face lecture, well, virtual synchronous lecture, and then we're gonna have some activities that will function as a follow-up. And keep in mind that sometimes these activities, and this is where the social presence comes in as well, it may not just be a quiz, but it could be even a poll. You might take a poll prior to this lesson or module, asking if students are aware or what do they know about a particular topic, yeah? And that would help to inform your synchronous session or the activities you do therein. All right, so I stated the asynchronous activity is that they do an online discussion. And then I give, of course, the learner participation. What do I expect students to do? That they, answer this particular question and respond to each other. So you see the social presence being there. And of course, the instruction I'm giving, that's the role of the teacher presence. And then the cognitive presence would be all the content that they're being exposed to. All right, what is the technology tool I'm using for that? Blackboard Collaborate and myeLearning discussion forum. All right, and the assessment in this case might be just participation in the discussion and in the live virtual session. Any questions on that? It seems fairly easy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. And remember, you're not starting from scratch, so it's just a matter of a lot of the first 3 columns would be taken straight from your course outline. All right? And the rest, these are minor little tweaks that you're making along the way. Any questions? I find we're all quiet. Okay, great, Paulson. Anybody else? Gloria, are you okay? Esther? Okay, great. Nadia, you are good. Nice. So it's very simple. I don't want you to think that it's too much work, because it's not. It's just the first 3 columns you already have, and you're just kind of tweaking you're mapping out what will be synchronous, what will be asynchronous. What are the activities that you're going to do? What are the technology tools? Those are the 3 main things that you probably want to look at. So of course, we know the importance. If it's showing up a little big, you could just click the minus sign on the top left side by that magnifying glass, and it should come back to the regular size. All right, so we know the importance of planning, right? After that, in planning, you're going to look at these main elements. I try to reduce it to 8 basic elements. All right, and this would be what your course might look like, or something of that nature. Yeah, so I'm seeing an arrow moving around on the slide. Okay, so right, so these are the 8 elements that you want to have. Of these 8 elements, I would suggest that you even pay closer attention to the content and resources, the learning activities, the virtual session, well, I could call them by number, 3 to 6. Why do I say 3 to 6 that you might need to pay closer attention to, or might be the most important at this particular time? Anybody? Go ahead, Paulson.
But since those 3 involve the engagement of your students, what we're doing to drive the course toward the end. So paying attention to those things will let us think of all those ways we can have our students actively learning. So that's why I think how they're most important.
Right. That's good. That's one thing. Yeah. Go ahead. Anybody else? Why do you think content, learning activities, virtual sessions, and assessments might be the ones that you need to focus on first? Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I think these are the ones which will change as we move to remote learning. The others are both for remote and non-remote.
Definitely. Definitely. Anybody else? Thank you so much for that, Jeffrey and Paulson. I'm looking for one more response. Esther? Oh, go ahead, Paulson. Go ahead. You see that, Esther? Go ahead.
Yes, because I like this point because when I was looking at my course outlines last week and thinking of how I need to revise them because we've always been teaching in the blended environment, but we did have some face-to-face. So I was looking at all the face-to-face sessions and particularly to see what do I need to do different. And one of the questions I'm asking two of my colleagues is, have you seen anything new in terms of different specific teaching strategies, methods, teaching approaches, activities unique to the online environment? Are there new terms that we need to put in the course outlines? So that was something I was going through my mind. So that I think if you all have any, can point us in that direction as well, that would be helpful.
Definitely, and that's a good place to start. Yeah, I commend you on that. Like looking at your course outline and seeing, and just asking yourself, what can I do differently? Basically, how can I improve the course, especially given the new dispensation and the mandate for remote teaching and learning and so on. All right, so definitely that works. And we have some stuff coming up shortly. You should get an email hopefully by the end of today and some resources and some sessions and all these different things that would kind of address those things in terms of techniques you could use, the flipped approach, all these other things, technology tools and so on that you could use along the way. But one of the reasons you want to focus on the content, number 3 through 6, is that this is really the heartbeat of your course. And this is what students will be looking for. Remember, you need to have something in myeLearning because you're not going to be meeting with your students in a face-to-face room, right? So students will need the content. Students will need learning activities. Desiree, let me send you a little. I can't give you a high five because of this platform, but I could give you a little clap, right? So yeah, core. It's the instructional core. All right. You need to have content online. You need to have learning activities. You need to have virtual sessions. You need to have assessments. So those things work. I think Desiree hit the nail on the head. Instructional core, the heartbeat of your course. And Gloria said the most essential elements, right? So these are the things that you need, not just the technology, but also the content of your course, the what your course is made up of. Yeah, definitely. So once you have that, you map all those things out in your course plan. It makes it so much easier, guys, to go to the next step, which is to build. And of course, to build your course, you're going to need access to myeLearning. Now, I'm placing a link in the chat here that would, if you click on it, now, has anyone had, is everyone in possession of their enrollment keys for courses this semester?
Yes, I got one.
Yes, right, Paulson, Terry, Carlos said some of them. Not yet, right. So, good. So what I need you, I'll give you just about, it's not gonna take long. I'm putting the link again. So click on that link. Good, great. So this is something that I think we could just take about 2 minutes to do it. It wouldn't even take 2 minutes. So you click on that link and it's gonna take you to a form to request the enrollment keys. Now the way myeLearning works is the courses are already created, the course shells are already created. All right, what we need is to get you to access those course shells so you could do the needful and add the content and these different things. All right, and so I'll give you a couple seconds to fill that form out. It's a very short form. You're just going to be prompted to insert your name, a contact number, and the course code, well, the course information basically. All right, so take about, I'll give you about a minute or so to insert that information in there. And when you're finished, feel free to send something in the chat like a yes or done. I don't have a prize for the person who has completed it first, but I mean, you could get a clap like Desiree. All right. So I'll just talk you through it. So like I said, you're gonna fill that form out, and I think within the next, between today and latest, tomorrow, you should be in possession of those enrollment keys. And the enrollment keys will just be a combination of characters, basically, that would allow you access to that course. All right? And I'll try to map out in just a bit. Once you finish, I'll map out how you go from, okay, you get your enrollment keys to getting access to your course in just about 30 seconds. So if it's one thing we could tick off of this particular session, at least you will have access. For those of you who didn't have access, you should have at least that initiated that process to get access to your courses. And for those of you who already have access, I think all you need to do is kind of focus on that course plan aspect of it, right? Focus on that course plan to get, and even consider what course content you may have that you could use and then build on or adjust or amend, all right? So I'll give the others a couple more seconds to complete that form. Okay, Gloria, good, done. I can't give any. Oh, you had 2 courses, good. And you could do it all in one go. Yeah? You could include the 2 courses in one. Desiree saying you have to check that you did 2 courses or that you have access to them. Right. So even if your email is not functional, that's okay. That's okay. What you can do is liaise with your admin. Sometimes the AA, admin assistant, will help you in that process. All right. Yeah, definitely. All right. So, and even if you state I think you might be prompted to insert the real UE address, but you may have to insert a contact number, correct? So I know there's a contact number there. You could leave your cell number if you'd like. So at least if they need to call to verify, they can do that. All right. Right. The AA is like the administrative assistant. I'm not saying it, this is it's on paper, but sometimes the administrative assistant or course or program coordinator might organize the accessing of those enrollment keys for you. But they're still going to have to fill out this form. All right. Now, once you have, so is everyone, I think we have a lot of people who have completed the form. Good. All right, Henry, great. Right. Thank you so much for that, Gloria. All right. I'll give a couple more seconds. Right, CLL does not use myeLearning, and that's a very valid point. And I know special provisions have been made or are being made for CLL, all right, as per request. Oh, you got right, you heard from them already. So see how quickly it works, right? And I think in the previous iteration of this session, someone said they sent it in the morning and they got it almost in right away. So this is the first thing in getting starting the ball rolling, as they say. And Vida, if your UE email is not functional, you can ask the admin assistant to follow up on it by just sending an email to, let me just send you this, to this desk at sta.uwi.edu. All right, and they can follow up on it for you, or you could do the same as well. All right. Okay, great. All right, so that takes us through the first element, guys. All right, the next thing, so you have that first step down, and once you get the enrollment keys, you're gonna see, and you go to your myeLearning platform, you're gonna log in, insert your, I think it's your ID number and whatever password you have for it, and you're going to see, if you look at this third column here, right here, this third graphic, sorry, you're going to search for your course. So when you get your enrollment key, you copy it. You could go in, that'll be in your email. You copy your enrollment key. Then you go to myeLearning, log in, and then when you log in, it's going to take you to what this graphic is on the left side here. Right? You're going to see like what we call a course portal page. Right, Lana, that's okay. That's okay. I think some semester 2 courses have been created, so you should be getting that. At least I'm seeing that on my end, some of the courses. And then, so you search for courses. This part should be either at the right column or at the bottom of the page, depending on your browser and its updates. So, but you're gonna see it. It's either on the right side, right column, or at the bottom of the page. Search for courses here. When you click search for courses here, it's gonna ask you to insert the course code. So you insert the course code and you click search or go. It's going to find your course, and you're going to look at the list of your course and its different versions, I should say. And you're going to look for the current one, meaning semester 1, 2020, 2021. All right? And then you click on that. Right? When you click on that, it's going to ask you to insert or prompt you to insert the enrollment key. And then you click enroll me, and that's it. You will not need the enrollment key to access your course thereafter. Right? And there's documentation on this process I could send to you after. And it should be forthcoming as well, included in the resources that will be sent campus-wide. So you'll also get it there as well. All right? Any questions so far, guys? All right, great. So, okay, great. Thanks so much, Gloria. So once you access your course, so let's say you went through the whole process, you searched for your course, you inserted the enrollment key, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to see a template, a course shell. This is what a blank or empty course shell looks like. All right, and you could see it's blank because now normally the center column, which is this part here, has all of your content, your activities, your resources. Your resources include reading materials, videos, case studies, etc. All right, and your activities may be your discussion forums, your assessments, and so on. All right, so that is what it looks like. And to edit it, you need to go on this top right side here with this blue gear button, or sometimes you might just see turn editing on, a big blue button here. All right, and you click on that, and then you can upload your content. All right. Does everyone know how to add content to your courses? Right. And do you know how to upload? Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I know how to add the courses, but I was wondering if you might be able to show us if you have to import it from a previous course shell. Right,
right. You could do it through different. Now, I'm glad that you mentioned that. You can do that through different ways. Now, if you would like to send me an email, I could do it for you. It's normally just about 30 seconds to do. I could do that for you. I also wanted to ask everyone, do you know how to upload a bulk of, do a bulk upload of information into your course? You're familiar with that, right? It's a simple process. Okay, no problem. I'll take some time. I know I'm digressing. I'll show you how to do that now, okay? So while I prepare the screen for that, I think I was saying just now that you might want to include, just one sec. All right, let's go. Okay, so let's say I wanted to, let me just share my screen. Can you see it? Yeah? Okay, great. So if I wanted to add content, a whole bunch of content to my particular course, all right, at the same time, instead of doing one by one by one, the first thing I'm going to do is click Turn Editing On. All right, click Turn Editing On, that's up there. And then I scroll to whatever block I want to add the content to. It wouldn't matter that much. The next step is to bring, if you have your documents in a folder, I'm not sure if you'll see it on your screen, but if you have your documents in a folder, all right, then that makes it even easier for you. So you're gonna go to your folder, pull it up. You don't have, it doesn't have to be, try not to use maximize page on both things. You could use one smaller than the other, okay? So let's say if I wanted to share a couple different presentations, I can go in my folder, find them, and then just drag them across. Are you seeing under topic 2, add files here? It's in a little kind of dotted box. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
Right. So I'm just dragging straight from my folder, and then I release. And it comes up there. So I have the different files there. Now let's say if I wanted to add, to adjust the order of these, then I can just drag them accordingly. Let's say I want to put this in topic 1. I can do that. So you just click on the four-headed arrow, arrow icon, and you're gonna drag it to where you want it to be. You can also rename it. Sometimes you might have a naming convention that is for your personal use versus the course's personal use. So in that case, you click on the pencil, and you could type it accordingly, right? Let's say we want to call this course outline. All right. Once you do that, make sure you click enter. Make sure you click enter, and it saves like that. So that way, it doesn't take you as much time to upload piece by piece by piece. Yeah. And while I'm here, let me see if I could show you how to copy course content. Now, this is where it's right here. The button is right here on the right side. All right. Import. You click on the gear button up here, and import. All right. Yes, go ahead.
I was asking, how does the add files box appear? Because I didn't see it and then it appeared before you drag the folder.
Okay, no problem. I'll do it again. It's supposed to show as a dotted, a sort of perforated box. I'll do it one more time. So let me pull up my folder, and let's say I want to all right. Let's say I want to use these, and I will do it in topic 3. All right. So look at topic 3.
We don't see your folder.
No, you wouldn't see it. It's just because I'm not. The platform doesn't allow you to see my folder. But what you're doing is just pulling up your folder next to, and you could split the screen if you can. You can pull up the folder and have myeLearning in the background. Yeah.
So it appears once you start to drag the folder to topic 3 then?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
then. Thank you.
So look here, right? So notice you see here, add files here. Are you seeing that?
Yeah.
Because, right. Because I haven't released it yet. I'm just dragging it over. So I just dragged it from my folder into just on myeLearning, but I didn't release it yet. So you're going to see add files here. And when I release the button, it comes up like that. It's similar to the way if you're in Gmail or Hotmail or whatnot, you can add an attachment. It's a quicker way to do it.
So can you drag, so my question to you is, because you've added 3 files, can you add a whole folder? So just take the whole folder and drag it over, or must you highlight the 3 files that you use in this case and drag that?
I would recommend opening the file and selecting the folders.
You mean opening the folder and selecting the files?
Yeah, it wouldn't. Yeah, sorry, because it wouldn't take your folder just as is.
Okay then, thank you.
So hopefully that helps.
If we don't have the things in the folder and we want to pull everything from the last semester, how we can do that?
Right. Yes, you're definitely right. I was showing here that you simply go up to the top right side and click on import. All right, now mine might look a little different to yours. All right, but it basically looks something like this. You search for your course. All right, let's say this one, and you can find your course where necessary. All right, and then you just, at the end of it, you click perform import, and that's it.
Okay, thank you.
No problem at all. I know it was a little digression, but it was something that was much needed, I think. So let's try and move forward very quickly. So no problem at all, no problem at all. All right, so we've gotten to this part where we outline some of the materials, the number 3 there. The course materials, and even some of the activities. It's so easy to, no problem at all, Lester. It's very easy. All right, it's basically once you turn editing on, you just drag and drop. All right, so once you add content to your course, it kind of looks, this is just an example of what it looks like. Of course, it could be more detailed. All right, and I think in this thing, you want to highlight, sorry, the topics. All right, that might be one of the first steps you want to take, outline the topic. So you saw in that course I have topic 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You could do it like that as well. Just insert the topic and then upload the content. All right, but I just figured you would have the content. Most of you would have content already, so it would be easier to upload that or copy it from your previous course. All right, so I want you to take some time now. We're going to go into a little group activity, and I want you to take some time to think. Now, this is just a simulation of sorts, or something to get you to brainstorm a little bit. All right, now I'm going to put you into random groups, and let me just put the groups here. All right, you're going to go into random groups, and I want you to think of a lecture or module or topic that you normally do. Yes, Carla. That you're gonna look at it, think of a topic that you normally do. All right, you don't have to select. Oh, Carla, 1 second that, right? So yes, you think of a lecture that you normally do synchronously. All right, and I want you to come up with, identify one that can be done asynchronously. So instead of meeting face-to-face to do this particular session and walking students through the entire process, what I want you to do now is to think of how that can be modified into an asynchronous delivery mode, right? Remember, you don't have teachers in the course, all right? Sorry, you don't have face-to-face physical sessions. Everything is done remotely. And remember, we said you're going to use a combination of synchronous and asynchronous. So now I want you, because this is part of what you would need to determine in your course plan. Think of one lecture or one face-to-face or virtual or synchronous session that you normally do, and how can that be modified or amended into an asynchronous delivery. Yeah? So for example, you might give students content to read or to look at or to follow up on. And then that to further follow up on that reading and to ensure that they're actually learning, you might actually have some sort of activity to go with it. whether it be an online presentation, whether it be a discussion forum, whether it be a quiz. I don't want to give you all the answers, but those are ways that you could think of it. So I'm going to put you in groups. And any questions on that before we go? I'm going to give you just about 8 to 10 minutes. It shouldn't take too long. Okay, great. And then, of course, you have one spokesperson for each group, and we take it from there. Okay? All right. Welcome back to the main room. All right. I'm sorry, I warned some of the groups. Blackboard has a way of, you don't even get a timer, but you get unceremoniously brought back into the main room. Okay, go ahead.
Could we all shut down the microphones, because it's gibberish what's coming out at the moment.
Hello? Okay, good. I think the microphones are off. Okay. So I'll repeat. I think it got blurred in the mix up with the microphones amongst some of the participants. So I was saying that Blackboard doesn't give you a timer, but it just unceremoniously bumps you back into the main room. All right. That's okay, Radhika. That's okay. Hopefully someone can present on your group's behalf. All right. All right. So let's just get straight into it, guys. And maybe all the groups may not necessarily have to present, but we could take about at least 3. So who wants to go first? Oh, Carla, I wouldn't be able to show you inside here. I could tell you the process. All right? Because for me to do it, I can't show you my screen because I'm in Blackboard. All right? So Paulson, you would go first, right?
Sure. So I thought we have a public holiday coming up, and that means we...
Right, just one sec, Paulson. Let me just address Stephanie and Carla's request. Yes, Jeffrey. So there's information coming up this evening. You should be in receipt of that on Blackboard, how to use Blackboard, the resources in Blackboard, how to use breakout rooms, how to record the sessions, how to access the recordings, how to use Blackboard for PBL, myeLearning, and Blackboard for project-based learning, a range of things. Oh, Renuka, you can't hear? All right. So with that said, I guess we could, and for time's sake, I could probably send that information. But when that information comes, you could always send me an email if you need another walkthrough of Blackboard. Is that okay, Carla? Okay, great. All right. So Paulson, you go right ahead.
Yeah. So I was saying that I know we have a public holiday coming on, and I was thinking that's a time when I wouldn't be able to have a synchronous session. So I had plans for a session where I would provide the students with scripts and assign students roles between teacher, student during word study, word sorting activities, and have them go through using the IRA questioning approach, which is not really ideal. So it's just questioning students to notice things. But now, if the students aren't there online because it's a holiday, they may not want to be online. So how can I change this to something that is asynchronous that necessarily? So I thought that I could provide a PowerPoint that will have the dialogue, and then have them review those, and then provide some kind of feedback on what the more appropriate interaction between student and teacher would be, that would promote noticing, promote high order thinking, etc. And then I stole one of our group members, Desiree, gave us a really good idea that we could actually, within that time, teach the students can engage with members of their family, they can engage with the environment. So even tell them in advance, have a niece, a sister, a child available, if possible, that you could try out the script and see their reaction and notice the difference between types of questioning. So that's one of the things we thought about. Some people in our group talked about using a video, using podcasts, different things that doesn't require us to be interacting with the student.
Right. No problem at all. Great. I'm seeing Dick. All right. So the information. Yes. It will be sent today. Is that okay, Dick?
Someone's microphone is on. We have a dog barking.
Yeah. Let me go and see if I could mute. Okay, I think it stopped. Okay, good. That's no problem, Jeffrey.
Did you kill the poor animal?
All right. So yes, I can send you the information on Blackboard, or I can do a quick just muted them. Or we could, if you have extra time, I can do just for a few of us who might want to stay back, cover that content. Great. So, but the content on Blackboard is the resources and so on will be sent to academic also. Everyone will get it. Yeah. But if you need me to do a walkthrough and a very brief walkthrough on Blackboard, I could do that just immediately after this session. Just a quick little thing for a couple people who may need to know how to set it up. All right.
Sure. Nice. Yeah.
Great. All right. Because I don't want to stay too far away from the objectives for this particular session. But all right. So good. Next group. Could we have another group present on what they discussed?
Okay. I think we can go. Hi, everybody. My name is Renuka, and I'm from IGDS. Our group, we talked about for moving our synchronous activity. Our synchronous activity was the tutorial presentations that we have students do. So what we do is we have them find a blog or a particular website, and then they do a gendered analysis of that, and they do a brief write-up of 150 to 200 words, and then present that to their tutorial. That is a synchronous activity. For the asynchronous activity, what we have done is we have created a Facebook group, and we asked the students to upload their presentation there. So they upload the link to the blog or the particular article that they are focusing on and their analysis. And we ask other students to ask the questions, to do the discussion, and so that way, students who are not who missed the presentation or who are not in that particular tutorial group, so are able to benefit from that learning. So it's just us using Facebook to really kind of facilitate that bit of learning.
Right. I like that. I like the different avenues you're taking. Very good.
Yeah, it's really good also. Yeah, also just it's a good way to also assess class participation, because then you'll see how many students are engaged in the discussion, what their contributions are. So it's a good way for measuring also. Exactly.
I'm glad you saw that, because that's kind of what, sometimes when you think of going remote or online or whatnot, we think, it's kind of, you're not your strongest suit, so to speak, but it's a good avenue that would allow you to be a little more creative, you know what I mean? Innovative in terms of your teaching strategies, in terms of how you engage students, in terms of the analytics, so to the extent at which students may be engaged and so on. So definitely good stuff. Perhaps you could have one more group. Or Carla, the recording will be sent along with the other stuff as well. So you'll get 2 emails. One would be the recording, and one would be the template, and the other one would be the Blackboard stuff that will be sent to Academic Hall. No problem at all. And you should have received the evaluation link. All right. Great. So perhaps you should have received that either within the past hour or within the next hour for the latest. All right. Great. And hopefully it was beneficial to you as well thus far. All right. So colleagues, great. Could we have one more group perhaps present on what they found? Go ahead, Stephanie.
Okay, hi. So just one small information that came out of our group. We decided that we would present to the students the content and ask them, while using these groups, ask them to present back to us after they read the content in a very creative way. So that way we'll see what way they could actually present the information. So some might actually do it as a presentation, or some people might read it out, or some people could sing it, or we don't know what creative ways students could come up with.
Great. I like that. So you allow students to be creative with it. I like that. Very good. And that's part of what we call 21st century learning, right? So, so definitely, guys, I think you guys did a really great job with that exercise, and hopefully it got you to see that adjusting to remote teaching and learning is not something that could be too pedantic or too, it's not the highest mountain to climb. You know what I mean? You just have to be very strategic. You have to be very, everything must align, and there must be a good rationale, a plausible rationale for doing things a particular way. All right, so you see how it causes you to think, okay, I want to accomplish this objective, and so I need to, I can't do this face-to-face or synchronous anymore, so I might need to make adjustments, right? And it helps you think down the line. So very good. Colleagues, I just want to take this time to ask if it's okay. I know we had some technical difficulties earlier. If it's okay that we take probably about 10 to 15 minutes extra. I'm just watching the time, and I'm asking if it's okay just to go a little 10 to 15 minutes to kind of cover the rest. Yeah? Oh, thank you so much, Desiree.
Sure, Chairman.
Great. Chairman, you said. No problem. All right, thanks so much for that, guys. So, right, so now that you have that sort, you got your feet wet in terms of how to make adjustments to your course. And of course, all of this must be documented, like I said before, in your course plan. Delivery, KFC. I hear you. Thanks so much for that. I was gonna make another joke and say the essential bucket, but all right. So as we move forward, the next thing would be, of course, thanks so much, Gloria. Would be, of course, uploading your course content, which we spoke about as we see in step 5. All right. Now, like I said, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can build off of the content you already have. Let's say some of you might copy the content from your previous semester or previous cohort and bring it into this current semester. All right. Or some of you may have content on your flash drive or some folder somewhere. And I just showed you earlier, I know that was a little digression, but it was something that was much needed, that you could just drag it into your myeLearning course. All right. And then the next thing would be, of course, you create your forum for queries, that sort of communication platform. So let's say if students have a particular issue, what would be their course of action? Yeah. Because remember, you don't have like a face-to-face office hour or an office that you could knock on the door, so to speak. Right. So you might need to have a time where a sort of open forum where students can place their queries or questions and you can address them accordingly. You may even need to have a virtual office hour, and that can easily be set up on Blackboard as well. All right. You would also need to schedule any sort of synchronous lectures. And this is almost like you are creating, of course, based on your timetable and so in some cases. Now, pre-scheduling your synchronous sessions helps because the student now knows how to navigate or manage his or her time. All right. So if I know, okay, September 12th, there's a lecture, and then following that, yes, definitely, Gloria. Virtual office hours, they're much more convenient to an extent, you know. Right. So I was just asking Dick that I was asking for about 10 more minutes. Yeah, 10 to 15 more minutes. I'm not sure if you heard that. Right.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, great. So so yes, so definitely you want to be able to schedule your synchronous sessions, and Blackboard allows you to do that. All right. And of course, you could always continue to build and tweak as you go along. So it's not that you have to do it all in one day or that kind of thing. Yeah. And as we move on, you're gonna see this is kind of what it might look like. All right, so you see you have a news forum here, which some of us are familiar with these things. On the left column, we have an audio. I think you would have seen in one of the previous slides for a lecture, for a welcome note or introduction. Oh, no problem, Dick. All right, so so yes, you can do that as an audio file, as a screencast. You could be very creative with your course welcome. All right. For example, Paulson mentioned that he likes that face. He likes to see who he's connecting with. Yeah. So Paulson, for you, I would recommend like doing a screencast of the course welcome instead of just a text or audio file. Yeah. So you could be very flexible and creative with it. As you see on the left side, we see what some of the text might look like, the labels here and there, just to ensure that the course itself is laid out in a way that is more user-friendly to students. Yeah, and we don't have to go sifting through the information and all the stuff that's in the course to find the assignment, to find the relevant readings, to find the relevant resources, and so on. All right? So that was just a sample for you. Now, the thing is that students really need, there are a couple things, 4 basic things that students need. You need to access your lectures and or recordings, right? And Blackboard allows for that. They need to access the course materials, whether it be reading materials, videos, case studies, etc., or even web pages. They need to be able to submit their assessments, all right? Whether it be a quiz, to make a short video, or screencast-o-matic. Screencast-o-matic. All right, so that is something that you can use there. Right, so with regard, Diane, I'm not too sure what you mean. No problem, Daniela. All right. And of course, communication to platforms. Like I said earlier, whether it's a virtual office hour, a news forum, and of course, email will be, you want to share your contact, at least your email contact as well. All right. So some tools that might be, in addition to what we looked at, in addition to myeLearning, we have Blackboard. Now, Blackboard has been mandated by the principal to be the main platform for synchronous and perhaps asynchronous sessions. All right. And I guess for some of you who may not have access to Blackboard for whatever reason, Zoom has been sought as a short-term workaround. But I'm just saying that the platform that the principal has mandated is Blackboard Collaborate. All right. And the convenience with that is that Blackboard, the students have access to the link. You don't have to copy and paste it into an email and that sort of thing. They also have access to the recordings. All right, so you don't have to manually go and email those to your students. All right, and as you see here, some of the comparison between the two. one of the main benefits, like I said, is that Blackboard is housed or stored in myeLearning. So your lectures, your online lectures and so on are all there. All right. You got your enrollment. There you go. All right, great, Gloria. So you could just go in myeLearning and search for it, your course, and then you just search your enrollment keys. All right. And guys, keep in mind that both BBC and Zoom, allow for breakout rooms, polls, recordings, so you can engage them, your students, in more ways than one. All right. So moving very quickly into the summary of the steps. Remember, you want to create, you have your course shell, so that, as Gloria just said, you have access to your course shell, and you have your course outline, right? From there, you're going to develop a course plan. After that, of course, in your course plan, you'll identify what your virtual versus synchronous versus asynchronous sessions will be. Then you want to make sure you have your course readings and materials and so on up there. And you could even take the time to upload your content from now in terms of whatever pre-existing course materials you might have. And then, of course, you want to schedule your synchronous sessions, create your forums, and basically all of that is part of the communication plan. Oh, good question, Diane. Very good. And strange enough, I was going into assessments. Talk about timely. So to answer your question, Diane, all of the assessments don't have to be summative. All right, so you don't have to have, to cut a long story short, the most recent decision that I've been informed of is you can make the adjustments with regard to the assessments and then account for them as the semester, like halfway through the semester. Let me give some further details. So remember, in the emergency remote teaching season or phase, I should say, we had certain protocols, examination protocols, yeah? And I think that's what Diane is referring to, correct? Yeah? So, right. So what has been, the decision has been taken or made that you don't have to have, you don't necessarily have to have a final examination, so to speak. You can convert those into temporary formative assessments. So for example, you may, and this is not, you know, you don't have, everybody doesn't have to do it, but it's just something for your consideration. Doing a final examination or exercise, which would come under the umbrella of examination protocols and alternative assessments or authentic assessments and so on. You can easily use in-course assessments, which might be midterm assessments, projects, or research projects or presentations even. All right, and these things that would not necessarily fall under the purview of the examination section. Now, I'm good. Yes, Jeffrey. So I'm getting to that. So during the semester, let's say I think in about October, you will have to submit or account for these changes or these temporary amendments that you've made to your head of department, who will pass these changes on to ACWAC, right? Because remember, you're not designing an online course in the traditional sense. You're designing a remote course. And because the provisions have been made and the adjustments need to be made for remote teaching and learning, even on those higher levels, the adjustments are being made as well. Yeah. So you're just informing your HOD and ACWAC, who will submit it to ACWAC, with regard to the changes that you're making. Now remember, these are not strongly fundamental changes as Desiree was referring to with regard to the course learning objectives, and no, these are just activities, midterm assessments, those sorts of things. Yeah. Diane said, "Yippee! When do we see that policy changing?" You should liaise with your head of department, and that would, that is, if they're not aware of it already, it's forthcoming, and And that's the information that was relayed to me prior to this session. All right. So with remote teaching and learning, and of course specifically assessments, you have a little more flexibility. Yes, you have quizzes and Turnitin, but you also have myeLearning assignments, so students can submit. Well, I'll get into the difference between Turnitin and myeLearning assignments in a bit. But you can do online presentations. These can be synchronous via BBC, Blackboard Collaborate, or asynchronous. Let's say students can create a screencast or a video or whatever it might be, a YouTube presentation even, on a particular topic or question that whatever your instructions will. All right, so feel free to be a little more flexible with your assessments. Of course, you have the discussion forum and group projects, which, as we saw earlier, provides a range of benefits and including engagement and so on. And as I said, I referred to myeLearning assignment versus Turnitin assignments. They're both available in myeLearning and allow for submission and grading of assignments. The difference, however, COVID has at least another definitely. So good one, Desiree. So yes, so myeLearning assignment, the difference between that and Turnitin assignment, well, the main thing is that Turnitin 1 allows for, it's a plagiarism detection platform or software, and so it mainly recognizes text. So if you have an essay, if you want students to submit an essay, you can instruct them to submit it via Turnitin. If it's a graphic, however, if your assignment has graphs and images and all these different things, Turnitin is, to try to get them to submit that through Turnitin is going to be problematic. For example, it may take forever to process because it's not recognizing the images, or it would not produce a similarity report, and a similarity report is where you could see the extent of or the percentage of plagiarized material. Yeah, it would skew everything basically. So I would recommend, if you're doing a project that is, let's say I know in engineering and some of these other faculties have a lot of graphics in their, student submissions, then I would recommend you go with myeLearning assignments. If it's an essay without graphs and so on, then a Turnitin assignment would be the better alternative. Any questions, guys, so far? Yes, Desiree, go ahead.
Could you go back to the slide before?
Sure.
Okay, I'm not understand. If Turnitin is a platform for assessing the extent to which a student might have plagiarized, are you saying that myeLearning offers this?
No, I'm saying the opposite. Turnitin is designed to detect plagiarism. myeLearning assignment isn't. But then Turnitin is designed for text-based assignments. myeLearning is designed for a wider range of assignments. So in other words, diverse file formats. So for example, if you want your student to submit a video recording of something, an online presentation, maybe, let's say an MP4, they would submit that via myeLearning. Turnitin would not recognize it.
But then
yes, Janet,
on myeLearning, you would not be able to determine, for instance, whether, let's say if it's a graphic or something, you wouldn't be able to determine the source of that.
Right. So in that case, of course, you're going to have to rely, I guess, on the
integrity,
and not just integrity, the format with Emily and Chicago, the style of Shaman. Yeah, right. So definitely, all right. So you wanna consider that, and that's easier to decipher than text.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
No problem at all. All right, no problem, Dick. We're gonna wrap up in about 2 minutes here. All right. So good. Any other questions, guys? Analyzing the content in media, meaning, could you give some details there, Stephanie?
So basically, how for assignments you can use Turnitin and you can pick up plagiarism. What happens is a student submits a video reporter, or even with the graphics, as you said here. Is there any anything else such as like a Turnitin for media?
Oh, no, not that we know of. Good question, though. Very good question. So if it's something that the student has an image or graphic, I was saying that you might want to pay attention to the referencing style. If the student has accounted for it, or if it exists, if the student tried to pull it off of Google and claim it as theirs, then you might probably need to take a look at that. So that is something that you would have to rely on. Yes, definitely. I like that suggestion. But currently, but it wouldn't be in Turnitin. They are different. I would imagine there would be different platforms, but not available to the university at this point. Let me say it like that. Oh, Desiree, they're the same more or less. But to be very precise, a platform speaks to, a platform is more of an umbrella term than the tool. So for example, myeLearning might be a platform, but it's a platform that comprises different tools, whether it be Turnitin, whether it be Blackboard, that kind of thing. Yeah? But we tend to use them semi-asynchronous, we tend to use them synonymously. Great. Does myeLearning facilitate submission of assignments in groups, and are recorded lectures difficult to upload? Right, so to answer that, if an assignment is extremely, extremely, extremely large, you can just send an email to service desk at sta. I'll type it in. All right. Oh, service desk at sta.uwi.edu. All right, asking for additional space to expand the size of things, so it'll allow you to that capability. Another thing is if the assignment is particularly large. Let's say if you want students to submit videos or some sort of multimedia assignment, then I would recommend that you instruct the student to store it on their, let's say, on YouTube or on a Google Drive, and then just post the link to that file. So for example, in Google Drive, you could share a link, so that way it doesn't take up as much space in your course. All right, now if it is a lecture, I would recommend you do the same thing, but in this case, you may not need to do that because it's going to be housed in Blackboard, yeah? So the lecture recording will be there for students to access, and it will be stored in Blackboard in myeLearning. All right? Okay, great, no problem. So colleagues, as we wrap up now, I'm just showing you some useful resources, which I will share with you, of course. So you're going to get 2 emails, one with some of these resources and more, and the template as well, and perhaps the recording as well if anyone is interested. All right, some useful ICTs that you might want to consider would be, of course, myeLearning, Blackboard, maybe Turnitin, and even game-based learning, Vortex, Jeopardy, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. All of these are useful tools that you could use to make it more engaging. Yeah? And of course, sure, I could provide you with that, definitely. All right. Great, no problem. I'm just making a note on it. All right. And of course, you have collaborative tools. So, you know, don't hesitate to give them collaborative assignments. I mean, the technology would allow for it. Okay. And you could even put your students in groups in myeLearning. All right. And we have user guides to provide some guidance as far as that is concerned. So the way forward, as we go forward, so you know from here on out, you're going to create your course plan, and then you're going to build your course by uploading content. And you could do both of them at the same time in terms of uploading content and tweaking your course plan. All right. And then after that, once you upload all your content, you're going to create your course activities. And then further down the line, you're going to create your assessments. Now, this is an example. It's not an absolute schedule, but it's just something that would help you pace yourself a little bit. So, for example, from between now and the rest of the week, you can take that time to create your course plan, insert your topic headers and online course resources, and then next week you can create your learning activities and integrate external platforms or technologies to suit. And then the following week, which is when teaching starts, you would have your assignments or assessments created. All right, so it's not something that is set in stone. Oh, will what require another webinar?
Things like uploading articles for reading, that kind of thing. No issues there.
No, because once you know the process, and I just showed you how to upload content,
right?
And I'll help you with the documentation to help you recall what you need to submit. Oh, sorry, how to do it. You wouldn't need another webinar for that. But this session was really designed to provide a roadmap on how to build your courses for remote delivery. Yes, Paulson?
Yeah, just wanted to share with regard to Curriculum Builder. That's a facility that should be available in myeLearning now. We experimented with it last year, and now I think the university has purchased the license for us to do that. So that saves the copyright issues with our just uploading articles onto myeLearning. So what you upload it through Curriculum Builder. So what I like with Curriculum Builder, it allows you to provide notes for the students there on which articles to skim through, which articles to look for particular something related to content, which ones that you want them to read because it's going to be part of a discussion, either on a discussion forum or a discussion in class. So it's really a very useful tool, and you can tie it each week to the content that you're doing, so you get them in the habit of reading for class.
Definitely. All right, and I know that was something that was being tested, a couple months ago, so that you might want to explore that. Yeah, and thanks so much for sharing that with the rest of the team, with the rest of the colleagues, Paulson. All right. So as we wrap up, this is the basic process that you're going to go in terms of building your course, plan, build, and review. I see Diane has a question. I guess you could type it, Diane, and we could try and answer it while I just wrap up. So you're gonna go through this process. It's an iterative process, so it's something that you will always have to come back to. You will see something, you might want to tweak it and that sort of thing. Oh, Paulson, you want to answer that, please? Go ahead.
Well, I think a librarian would be in a better position to answer. It's a facility in myeLearning. It's something that EBSCO came up with. Came out, I think, in 2016, 2017. Not UE. I was involved in a bit of the piloting and offered them some suggestions to improve it, and they took my suggestion to me. They now control all those ideas. But anyway, I think they've implemented it, and it's a really excellent tool for pulling in all those articles, those research-based articles, the library's resources into your content each week, and it allows you to make notes. And what is that feedback noise? That allows you to that thing is distracting. To
I think it's a microphone as well.
Thank you, Paulson.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
If I can add, Justin. Okay, so what it does, it allows you to link directly to the resources that we have. So we get statistics on what students actually use. So lecturers don't have to go to the resources, download a file, make a PDF, and then post it. If they search, they can create a reading list, and the students can simply click on it and go to, and see the resources there and then. Rather than have the extra step. And this way, the library can actually see what is being used and what is not being used.
Right.
Okay.
So definitely.
So it's something we're going to introduce. We're going to handouts are being prepared and all of that to share with regards to using Curriculum Builder to create reading lists. That's what it does essentially. It helps you to create your reading list. Okay?
Definitely. And Shaman, if you'd like, you could probably send, if I don't know how the level of completion those handouts might be, but you could share them with us as well as we prepare content, because we're preparing a whole compilation of resources to help people build their courses. Yeah.
I'll get those to you probably later this week. I think they're being finalized. Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for that.
Thanks, Paulson.
Definitely. Thanks, Paulson. So as you review your courses, these are some of the elements you want to pay attention to. The welcome note, for example, as I showed you earlier, the technology tools, the layout, because that helps with navigation and so on. Content and activities. Remember, we spoke about the social presence, interaction, again, social presence and cognitive presence, your instruction, so you have your teacher presence, and of course, assessment. And once you consider those elements and address those things, your course will be ready for delivery. All right? So as we recap, we looked at remote teaching and learning, and we had quite a discussion on that. And then we looked at some of the changes that may be necessary as you transition to remote teaching. We looked at some technology tools such as Blackboard versus Zoom, Turnitin versus myeLearning assignments, and even the curriculum builder, as Shaman and Paulson were elaborating on. Yeah. So colleagues, as we come to an end, I really thank you for being here. If you need any sort of assistance, please feel free to send an email to cetl_bl@sta.uwi.edu. If it's a technical issue, for example, a myeLearning account issue, then you might need to send that email to servicedesk@sta.uwi.edu. All right. You could also send me an email directly, justin.zephyrin@sta. Same handle, same sta.uwi.edu.
Justin, can I add something? I just saw someone put into the chat copyright issues. Offhand, if you're using Curriculum Builder, it is the resources that we have paid for. So copyright and linking to those resources is not an issue. People going and scanning entire books and putting up their students or several chapters, that is where the challenge comes. At this time in Trinidad, basically it's 10% or so of a book. You're not supposed to go and just scan stuff and share it. Yes, we know it's COVID. In Jamaica, Mona Campus had made some allowances for a larger percentage to be shared. But I don't know. I just came back into UAE 2 weeks ago, so I don't know if any adjustments were made in Trinidad. But yes, you have to pay attention to how much you're going to copy and share with students.
Yes,
okay?
definitely.
Contact me outside of the session if I can find out more information for you. And that is shaman.rennick@sta.uv.edu. Thank you.
Shaman, you could probably just type your email address in the
All
chat.
right,
And,
I'll do
yeah.
that. It's not an easy thing to spell.
Oh. Diane, with regard to virtual labs, one of the ways in which now the provisions were being made, let me say it like this. Provisions were being made initially with regard to labs on campus during this current dispensation. I'm not sure what changes have been made to that plan since. So for example, the plan initially was to have small labs, allow for students to meet a small number, of course, to do lab work. I'm not sure what's the status of that plan just yet, if it has changed given the current dispensation. I do know that some institutions are also networking with other institutions to allow for, right. Yes, so other sorry, I was reading the chat that we use, sorry, that just is a thing there. Networking with other institutions, let's say international universities or universities abroad, to make those labs happen. Yeah. So yes. And Jeffrey posted the principal as mandated we teach from our office or classroom. What do people feel about this with the bandwidth problems? Oh, well, Jeffrey, that might be something that you might want for another conversation, but I think he was coming from the perspective of a more secure or more stable internet connection. I'm not saying, we know what it is, but I'm just trying to best see it from his perspective in terms of what, yeah, I know. All right. I think his understanding is that the internet connection is a little stable here. And I know for one, he was concerned about the consistency and the look and feel of the online delivery, the remote delivery. All right. You are most welcome, Esther. But yes, Jeffrey, definitely, I identify with some of your concerns. Colleagues, so this brings us to the end of our session. And by now you should have gotten a workshop evaluation, a webinar evaluation, I should say, in your emails. And subsequent to that, you will also receive later on this evening some of the resources that we highlighted along the way, which include the course plan template, the tutorial guides and documentation, user guides for Blackboard and all these other things. We also have some training coming up in Blackboard specifically and myeLearning, like orientations to those things. All right. But this workshop, like I said, was just designed for you to map the process out. Yeah. You're most welcome, Desiree and Anne. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, Gloria. And guys, as you go forward and you build your courses, feel free to make sure it's collaborative. Make sure the courses are, you add some practical element. This is a good opportunity to do that. Be creative, be innovative, but be practical at the same time. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. So thank you so much once again, guys, for tuning in. And should you need further assistance, of course,